So when I was back in Australia last time, I watched Despicable Me on the TV, and I was disgusted to see in the ad break, I counted the ads, 10, 9, 8, 9, 10. Across the whole movie, each break was full of so many ads. I can pretty much guarantee you, I turned to my iPhone, or left, or did something else. Why are people spending money on this? How dare the TV companies do that to us? So when you're watching TV, put your hand up if you use your iPhone, one device, and 2 devices, and 3 devices. Can you come and see me later? So, back in the day, William Lever said, half the money I spend on advertising is wasted, and the trouble is, I don't know which half. Back then, advertising was limited to radio, newspapers, magazines, and that sort of thing. And really nothing much has changed these days, even though the data's there, the decisions aren't being made the right way. How many of you drive home at night excited to go to the letterbox to open some junk mail? Or, in the early 2000s, I used to love getting mail, get that little ding on the computer and open it. Now, I don't like that because it's mostly spam. Out-of-home advertising just doesn't have the impact that we want it to have anymore. The other day I was walking down George Street, on the way to the bar, and I counted 30 people on their phones while they were walking on the street, dodging each other, looking down. Do you think they were looking at any out-of-home advertising? When I was in KL last week, there's been an explosion of LED screens around the city. And of course people are looking at them because they change and it attracts our attention. I don't know what that's doing for driver safety. And I know, being male, us males, we don't multitask very well, so we need to concentrate on driving, okay? This is what it looks like in the day and at night. So yes, now we can measure and target this stuff with new media and big data. And don't rest easy though, that your ad campaign, the 360 campaign the agency is doing, is going to solve all your business problems. Because a shit ad is a shit ad, no matter where you put it. Now there's steep competition for consumer time, and we really need to think about how to do this right. How are you guys protecting yourselves from wasting money on advertising that nobody looks at? Now we're all familiar with the internal politics and the things that fuel that. And I see a lot of companies like yours where the decisions on how to do marketing relies on really crappy research data. Doesn't tell you anything about why people do things or give you an understanding of what drives people's behaviour. There's focus groups and there's surveys and all this stuff is skewed. Off-air observation, you mentioned we have to do this, is okay, it's a step in the right direction. But to my mind, it's not good enough. Now I'm a psychologist and there's a couple of other psychologists in the room. Who's this? Come on, Freud. Okay. Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis, and the man who brought the term unconscious into our lexicon. At any given moment, our brain is receiving a great deal of information about our surrounding environments, shapes, colours, the movement of objects. We take in so much visual information that our mind just chucks it into the subconscious, just stores it down there as a memory. Not to be dismissed, the subconscious mind has a great impact on decision making and behaviour. Whether we're using a website, watching a TV, using an app, looking at an ad, navigating around a bank branch, the information in our subconscious is controlling what we do. 95% of our behaviour is controlled by the subconscious. So how do we find out about it? How do we understand subconscious? In history, there's been quite a few successful ways of delving into the unconscious. This is a photo that I took at Angkor Wat. And one of the ways to do this is meditation and contemplative practice. This creates an altered state of consciousness and allows us to explore the unconscious mind. So does hypnosis. It creates a state of heightened awareness and you can tap into that. They say that art does the same thing, releases our unconscious creative side. Now the stuff that I talk about a lot is eye tracking, and that gives us access to people's unconscious. People's gaze is largely controlled by the subconscious mind. The way that we see this when we do eye tracking on people is that they're surprised at what they do. They can't control their eyes, they can't trick the camera. I was on Channel 7 on Today Tonight, and at the end of my interview, I said, the eyes don't lie, in front of the camera 25 times until I got that right. So observation is just not good enough because you don't understand this stuff, because the person who you're observing can't tell you. So this is an eye tracking video, and we can see here the person and their expression and their eye gaze moving around the screen. The red dots are called fixations, which means that she's attending to that part of the page and probably having some thoughts about it. And the lines are called saccades, and we largely suppress our vision during that time. You can actually see from that eye gaze why she's having trouble with the screen. She's not getting informed validation, things aren't working the right way, she's getting frustrated. I haven't turned the sound on, but she's actually swearing a little bit. But I didn't need to tell you that because you can see it from looking at her eye gaze. So on a conscious level, we're relying on recall. But on an unconscious level, we can look into people's eyes and understand what we're doing. Now, why is this important? And I always have to show this picture, she's quite cute. But in the future, agencies and banks are going to have to build applications that use eye gaze in the right way so people don't crash their car and die. I saw this on the web about 8 weeks ago now, and it's a patent that was released or submitted to the American Patent Office by Google, and it's called Pay Per Gaze. Advertisers will start paying for ads when people look at them, and I think that's a nice thing, because we don't necessarily know the value of the ads that we put onto pages, so this way we can advertise that cost. I understand it, sorry. I found this one 3 days ago. It's a $25 3D printed piece of a camera that was retrofitted onto the glasses to do eye tracking. How cool is that? So eye tracking is not available in the glass right now, but it will be in the next version, I'm sure. So how does all this work? Let's talk a little bit about eye tracking and how it can be used across the holistic customer experience journey. This is an example done with a desk-based eye tracker. I can't show it to you because they've just taken it away to show to somebody else in another conference. But you are very important. I've got some other ones here. Has anyone seen this image? A few people. Who's done eye tracking here? Been a participant or observed it? Jim? Excellent. Nodding, smiling. Good. This is a quick insight, and I can't believe the amount of times people have read this on my blog. If you look at the left-hand side, the child's looking out at the screen. It's very cute, and you can see the fixations going up to his face. It started in the middle because there was a black cross on the screen before we showed the image on the left. They were separate in these images. And then we can see about 7 fixations before people read the headline. That's one example of one person. On the other side, the kid is showing people where to look by directing their attention, and there's many fewer fixations on his face. So that's just an example from one person. But if you look at this across 106 people, looking at the 4 images in a randomised order for 5 seconds, we can see that the child with a cute face has got a cute face, and that's all it does. Now, if that was Hugh Grant, that'll be okay, probably a bit of association with the nappy brand. But when it's just a kid, it doesn't do anything. It just distracts people from the message. And the message here was actually to sell more nappies. Another quick one from a pub. This was just some concepts that the agency did up, looking at how to understand the impact of this. It was a poster on a wall in a bottle shop, and it's being used to sell more beer. So if we go from the left-hand side with just a t-shirt, that's A, and the other one's C on the other end. So who reckons A is going to be the best to sell more beer? No one? Who reckons B is going to be the best? A couple of people, and C?
Yeah.
That's what everybody says that. So we showed these to people, again, for 5 seconds in a random order, and this is what happened. C is the worst ad. People look at there and think, where's the guy? It's weird.
Yeah.
The first one, there's no guy there. There's nothing to attract their attention. People focus on the brand. Call to action. They understand that it's a free t-shirt to get a beer. And they'll probably sell more beer through that. There's some insights into some offline advertising. And people who I know here probably think of me as being the digital guy, but we don't just do digital anymore. This is an example of a study that we did at DBS in Singapore. We looked at 4 different branches and we intercepted 90 people on their way into the branch and asked them to put on some eye tracking glasses like these. These work on infrared reflection from the right eye. They video record what the person is looking at, they record the audio, and then they overlay a gauge trail onto that video, just like we saw in the example earlier. And then we collect all the data from what the person's doing when they're lining up in a queue for about 45 minutes. Sure. Yeah, depends, yeah, some of these older branches. Yeah, but we got all of this data right. But the person could stand in the queue on their own and do whatever they like. They forgot they had the glasses on. Some people tried to walk away with them just because they forgot. But apart from playing Candy Crush on their mobile phone, everybody looked at the TV. Now this was great insight for the bank because there was just a magnitude of additional gaze on the TVs, which meant that they didn't take them out because the content's too hard to manage. They funneled that funding to do it better and got rid of some stuff that just was crazy and dangerous. I'll talk about that later. When we look at print advertising, how did you feel when you saw that image and processed what was going on? Anyone? There you go. When you can see it a bit bigger, people got a bit freaked out. The way that you all looked at this was probably something like this. And the way, on average, in the first couple of seconds that people looked at this was like this. What you see at the top is that people are wondering, what the hell is this kid doing? It's dangerous. It's creating anxiety in people, and that's not good. What kind of politics let that get out into the press? Who here loves looking through the internet and browsing on banners and clicking on them? So why are marketing people doing it still when we don't even like doing it? It's not stuff that we do. So here's another example. REA has been mentioned a few times. When people are busy doing something like looking for a house in New South Wales, they don't look at any ads. So I don't know what value these guys are getting, maybe a bit of branding. And here's an example from a Macca's ad on Facebook gaming. Now this is okay because they do ask, when the ad comes up, you'll see in a second, they do ask if the person wants to have a free life in return for watching a video. But of course the person, there it is, of course the person's not looking at any of the other ads on the page. But you can see here now, she's actually looking around trying to work out how to click on the video. How do I click on the video? I've just been given a free life, but how do I do the video? How long is this? There we go. Oh, God, scroll over. You can see that. Now, I actually know the agency that did it, and I said to them, are you dumb? And they said, no, Macca's just wanted to keep you on the page longer. Oh. Anyway, in the real world, or in the almost virtual world, we can do this stuff as well. And this is really good. We can eye track people who are busy doing other things. This is a call centre that takes 100 calls an hour. One person takes 100 calls an hour. And they've never done research in there before. And we can't plug anything into their IT systems because of the security. But what you can see here is Lewis is sitting on the left-hand side of the operator, and he can see what she's looking at. He can also hear what she's saying on the phone. And underneath the screen on the right is an eye tracker. And over her shoulder is a video camera. Now she forgets that this is all happening because she's busy taking 100 calls an hour. You can guess what she might be doing. But nobody's researched it because they can't understand what's going on, and everything that the operators say they don't believe, because they're just operators. So this is what we found out. The number, sped up a bit, the number is the calls. And we put it like this so we can see all the other stuff around the screen and see what she looks at. Can you imagine your eyes moving around the screen like that red dot for 4-hour shifts? Why does this organisation have a massive turnover problem, and why are the shifts only 4 hours long? She's running a marathon with her eyes on every phone call. This was the first time the IT department actually had an insight into how these call centre operators work. They believe, because we have cool technology, and they thought it was funky. It appeals to geeks, and it also appeals to Singaporeans, which is good. They let us change the interface. We haven't quite finished yet, but it's a massive, massive change to the culture of that organisation. So I have to show something in mobile because everybody's talking about that. So this is a bit of a lot of research that we did. Mobile banking for St George. You can see here the kind of things that people will use mobile banking for. This was the outcome of lots of ethnographic observation and focus groups and things, which are good for exploring ideas and coming up with concepts. And we can understand the sorts of things that people want to do on their phone. I'm sure this is different for you guys. But now we can test how they do it on prototypes, iteratively, over and over again, to understand whether we've actually got it right. What you see here is actually a couple of different photos put onto some porphyry board in our lab, just to give the person some context about what they're doing. We did this one for Singtel, looking at how they operate their phone and an app in a cab and in a convenience store. That sort of research gives us the same fidelity as with a website. What you can see here is the person who on the left is actually browsing around, and they're looking at ads they're interested in, they're in context. Whereas the one on your right is some research we did for the IAB in Australia, looking at mobile advertising. And what we've shown there is, like the real estate example when somebody's searching for a property, this person is busy clicking on the button, so nobody much is going to look at that ad there from the computer. Really need to think about where you're cluttering up the screen and detracting from the design to put an ad on that nobody looks at. And this is how it looked when we tested the St George interactions and concepts. This is actually a video of the person discussing what she did when she did it, which uncovers that unconscious experience and helps her understand what she did, and means that when we do our usability study, we use a thing called retrospective think aloud. It means that during the study, she's not talking, we're not bothering her, we're not asking her questions because she's busy doing banking. We let her go, just like we do in the bank branch or in a supermarket. We do a lot of work with retailers. So she does it in her own time. When she's finished, we can replay it and pause and discuss and chat. And also, because we can see this in real time, our record with Westpac was 60 people logging in remotely to watch a mobile test using Adobe Connect from their desks, different locations, which is really good for culture change as well. So, just one more concept to talk about. We try to make these things realistic these days. This is our lab. It doesn't actually look like this today. Today, it looks like that. driving simulator because we're testing a mobile app that people can use while they're driving. When it was set up like this, we're looking at some payment systems and how people would use them if they're in a supermarket. The client loved it. And the people who were doing the tests felt really good. Yesterday when I was talking to Miles, who was doing some testing on the simulator, he's like, oh, we got some gold. It was being forgotten that were being tested and being eye-tracked. But when we do this, we've set up our observation room like this. This is a picture that doesn't have post-it notes on it, but we normally have a lot of them. We do these tests in 3-day sprints. 6 people in a day, but we don't write a report, a very long one anyway, because we get, like Jim, we get the client, the designer, the developers in the room to watch the testing, and while they're watching the testing, they brainstorm what they're learning. And the reason that works really well is because we're eye-tracking people, the person watching can interpret that behaviour much, much more clearly and come up with ideas on the go than they would ever be able to do with a Think Aloud protocol. So, to the rest of the business, please give customer experience more money. Stop wasting your time on shit ads. I've empowered you with a secret weapon to protect yourself from risk. Why wouldn't you spend a little of your crazy marketing budgets on this type of insurance before you go live, and a lot of time during the process to protect yourself in any channel? Because I can tell you, there are plenty of companies that are doing this now in Australia and in Singapore, and after one experience, they tend to come back over and over again during the process. This is a built-in risk mitigation plan. Maximise your NPS scores, make more profit, increase your conversions, help your customers, and make this world a better place.